Hi everyone, welcome to today's flick through for Wargames Illustrated number 410, which is February 2022. And as you've probably spotted already, this came with a free gift. And these are figures from the Black Powder Epic Waterloo Battles sets that have basically just been released by them. As a scale, they're quite small, epic scale, around about 15mm. What I will do is I will just show you. So if I bring that up. So here's a 1/72 scale pilot next to the figures. So you can see that. And if we were to take another wargaming miniature, so let's take Airwin from the Lord of the Rings range, and you can see the size differences there. But having said that, for their small scale, they're very well detailed. So they were issuing out one set of French and one set of British. Unfortunately, my local Smiths only had French sets. Otherwise, I would have tried to get 2 magazines, one of each, to show you. So I do apologise for that. Unfortunately, I was scuppered by the supply chain. But yeah, you get 8 units here. The Voltigeurs, and a cannon and a officer on horseback. With this you also get the Imperial Eagle, a drummer and an officer with a sword. What they didn't supply in the set were the stands that you amass these on, basically, that you clip these to or glue these to. So that you can put them in infantry blocks for your battles. But there you go, they're quite nice. It's not something I will collect, but it was something that I found quite interesting. And like I said, really nice detail considering the size of these miniatures. So let's have a look at Wargames Illustrated. Great artwork of chosen men from what's probably the 95th Rifles on the front. And we also have some call-outs for Historicon 2021, Saving Private Ryan comic book paint style. And that's quite an interesting article. And we also have Wargames Illustrated Awards. The 2021 results are in. So, opening up, we have the contents with a note from the editor, and then we have a photo of the epic scale miniatures aligned in battle against each other outside an epic scale La Haye Saint. And then obviously the contents call out. Subscription for Wargames Illustrated. Then we have Flames of War, 2 North African sets. You have the Kasserine Pass, which is American versus German, and it contains 21 tanks and 3 guns. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the American side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the German side, with 3 anti-tank guns and their crew. So yeah, and then you have a Tobruk, which is British versus Italian, and that contains 22 tanks and 2 guns. So that looks really good, and it looks like the British are mostly fielding the Lee Grant tank. The Americans have some versions of the Lee Grant tank and some Shermans and their little M3s or M4s. M3s I think they were, I'm not 100%. Yeah, M3 Stuarts, that's it. In the Tobruk you get 3 Crusader tanks, You get 6 Crusader tanks, 3 Grant tanks, and 3 M4 Sherman tanks. The Italian force is 1 M1441 tank, a tank platoon of 4 M1441 tanks, an assault gun battery, 5 times Semovente assault guns, and an anti-tank battery of 2 88 guns. So a good looking set. Now, this was a board, Stalingrad board, and the epicness of this board cannot be understated. It's a shame that there were not considerably more photographs of it. It was a Stalingrad board that was done for some wargaming. Apparently the board is in sections, so you can lift out a section in order to reach certain areas, and then once you've done your move, you can replace the section. They've also taken some of the real life buildings in the condition that they were photographed in, and then modelled them on the board, which I think is fantastic. And we have constructing a towering 28mm storage shack. And then continuing on, we have some more information on readers, bits and pieces. This guy, the guy that's doing Flames of War, sent in some pictures of some tanks that he's painted, and one of his first efforts, a Chieftain tank there from the Team Yankee. So we then have some more advertising, and then observation posts, new and forthcoming Wargames stuff you need to know about. So, Artemis Warfare Battering Ram Siege Tower. This looks really interesting as a build. And it looks like it's laser cut MDF. With pre-cut all these, I'm assuming that these will be leather tarps that they put over the wood in order to try and make it a little bit more fire resistant. But yeah, absolutely great. 28mm. For your Ancients wargaming. Osprey Games, Wars of the Republic book. We have also Partisan Press, La Cucaracha. Chris Swan has fast surpassed the humble subtitle that adorns the cover of his latest book, Wargames Rules for Engagements with Small Forces During the Mexican Revolution. So, set in the Mexican Revolution. And then some Grumbler miniatures mounted Napoleonics, and these are 6mm, and they all appear to be in white metal. We've got an advert for Foundry Games. Animals, so yeah, quite a plethora of animals here, from crocs to rhinos, giraffes, bears, hippos, stags, toadstools with funny faces on. Yeah, brilliant. Right, release radar. Dom Saw's back to report on the hobby goodies that have made his blip. Sorry, made a blip on his release radar. Now, something which caught my eye were these on the offensive in World War II. There are, as always, a plethora of new ranges coming out for all areas of World War II, especially in 28mm, which is great for me as it allows for increasingly diverse and nuanced armies. If Germans are your thing, then look at the new offensive miniatures figures that have finally hit the digital shelves. Offensiveminiatures.com. If some of these SS figures look familiar, that's because the WI team got their hands on them months ago and reviewed them in observation post. The lucky sods, us normal folk, can now get hold of these detailed white metal tank hunters armed with Panzerschrecks, Panzerfaust and Telemines. There's also a 4-figure pack that allows you to form 2 LMG teams, 1 deployed and 1 moving. To support the SS and follow on from last month's Italian bounty, there are Italian allies from Forja 3D at forja3d.s who produce 3D printed figures and vehicles. Their large range includes the Sahariana vehicle, the AB-40 Infantry, Paracadusti, and artillery for the Italians. And something for the Cold War Brit armourers here, a Green Goddess and a Land Rover forward control in 28mm, and these are from warbases.co.uk. Full paper jacket, right. For the Napoleonic Wargamers, we have Salamanca Campaign 1812. And a few other books from Out and About. Now we have an article based on the miniatures that were included with the magazine, and looking at how epic it is to see this amount of figures on a tabletop, and they're only playing on a 6 foot by 4 foot board here. It's just phenomenal. One of the comments that was made, because I looked at the YouTube videos that they did for this, and one of the comments that the gamers made was that moving these units around the board, they feel more like a proper battalion rather than the maybe 20 or 30 figures that you might have if you were playing in 28mm scale. Because these are smaller, you know, you get 80 troops to a sprue, and they feel more like more representative of a full battalion of men than perhaps the 28mm gaming does. But yeah, full game with some photos of the troops fully painted. Some more advertising, and this one, Adrian's Walls, Far East Pacific and Vietnam era type buildings, huts and towers. So if you wanted to do, say for example, a Pacific campaign or a Vietnam campaign. Historicon 2021. So we've got the Wargaming Historicon to North America after an almost 2-year hiatus. Now this is really great because it shows you some of the games that were taking place. The ones I particularly have more of an interest in are sort of like more of the modern ones. So the Team Yankee tournament photographs I find probably slightly more interesting than some of the others. But again, plenty of photographs of tables and people gaming with fully painted miniatures, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. Right, refighting Napoleon's big battles. Now this is just an article on Wargaming Napoleonics, and they talk about some of the limitations that you have set when wargaming, etc., with regards to obviously the size of units, etc., that you can put on a board, and certainly a history of some of the board games and video games that have taken place in the Napoleonics wargaming. Right, so Wargames Awards 2021. Best manufacturer went to Perry Miniatures, why am I not surprised? Those boys for quite a few years were responsible for some of the gorgeous miniatures that we got from Games Workshop with regards to Lord of the Rings. Best customer service went to Warlord Games. Best new rules, Footsore Miniatures and Games. Best new rules, yeah. Best wargame rules. If the 2020 awards reflected popularity in Ancients, this year normal service was resumed with 2 World War II games, sweeping in to take 2 of the top 3 spots. Chain of Command by 2 Fight Lardies and Warlord Games Bolt Action have been in the tussle for top dog in the World War II market since we began the WA Awards 5 years ago. This year Bolt Action came out on top, so there you go. Best Wargame Accessories. So Best Wargames Terrain Accessories or Building Manufacturer. For the 3rd year running in this category, with TT Combat in 3rd, Foreground 2nd and Sarissa Precision 1st. And most popular article 2021, Rick Priestley. And best range of miniatures, it was a 2nd year at number 2 for the Baron's War 28mm medieval range by Footsore Miniatures, a new entry at number 3 for Perry Miniatures, and a return to the top, last seen in 2019 for Bolt Action 28mm World War II. So those were the main awards. There's a summary of the results on that page. Okay. The Monster Merchants. Right, advertising. And we have a great article for batch painting your epic infantry. So we have British infantry here. And some French line infantry. French light infantry in greatcoats. Yeah, so just the 3 main units there: British Line Infantry, French Line Infantry, and French Light Infantry in greatcoats. Right, now this article I found really, really interesting, and the style I found really evocative of some of the comic books that I may have looked at as a child. And essentially what they're doing is they're painting these miniatures in the style of a comic book panel. And the results, I think, are quite spectacular, especially in regards to this Space Marine here and these 2 orcs on the article. But yeah, just goes through some of the stuff that was done. Airbrushing was obviously used as well. And it just seems that they were outlining a lot of the detail with a darker outline in order to get that comic book effect. Right, now, Studio Miniatures. I saw this advert and I found it really, really interesting. So, there's a number of survivors here, and essentially it's guess the film character. So I think the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's John McClane, Die Hard. That looks to me like Chuck Norris. You've got Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop. We've got Mad Max, Charlie Chaplin there. We've got Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. We have Indiana Jones. Now, this chap, I'm assuming, was one of the characters from the Predator 2 film, who speaks to Danny Glover before having his head removed by one of the Predators. And I think this is Alice from Resident Evil. But yeah, looking at those miniatures, fantastic. Made me chuckle, some of the depictions. Now, another great article about Napoleonics. Just tackling bits and pieces, tactics, and so on and so forth. And Tiger on the Hunt. Bolt action scenario. So you are being given a bolt action scenario here. Tiger on the Hunt. You got your table, deployment zones, etc., and the special rules for playing that particular scenario. Another great article on basing your Napoleonic infantry. How to do it, and obviously make it look reasonably in scale. Silver Bayonet Society Part 4, continuing on from the article from last issue. And then we got a what if article. What if the Chinese treasure fleet really had reached the Americas? So that would be an interesting what if. And then coming into an American Civil War article, primarily David Bickley contributes to our regular Why I Love Something in the Hobby series by sharing his passion for a well-established American Civil War range that is not to everyone's taste. All photos by the author from his own Dixon Minis collection. And looking at the number of miniatures, that's a fair collection. And continuing on from last month's New Zealand warfare, we have another article, and basically talking about playing the many different conflict eras within the New Zealand wars, and some great looking boards set up as well. And then that brings us to the end. So, Wargames Illustrated. The next one she said, can't see. Let's have a look. Let's go back a little way. No, I can't see when the next Wargames Illustrated is going to be out. But if I do find it, I will pop it in the description. So if you don't see it in the description, I couldn't find it. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that flick through of Wargames Illustrated. The miniatures that we get, I think, are really cool. I'm not going to start playing them simply because I already have several games that I play and collect miniatures for, and my current place of abode would not allow me the space, I think, to start collecting more. Anyway, join me next time. We've got Airfix Model World to look through, and I hope I will see you then. All right, take care. Bye-bye.